They called the planet Unlivable long before any human ever stood on its soil. The name on the star maps was Charon 9, but most species simply marked it with warning symbols and moved on. The atmosphere was unstable, filled with radiation storms that flared without warning. The ground chemistry changed every few kilometers. Native life was aggressive, fast, and strong. Probes sent by advanced civilization stopped transmitting within hours. Some were destroyed. Some simply went silent. To the Galactic Council, Charon 9 was a waste of space. A death world. A place that proved the universe was not meant to be friendly. To Dr. Alara Vance, it was an opportunity. Her ship, the Wayfarer's Mercy, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. From the viewing window, the planet looked angry, like it was always in the middle of a storm. Red and brown landmasses twisted across the surface, broken by dark forests that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Lightning flashed across entire continents. The oceans glowed faintly green under the harsh sun. The ship's AI spoke in a calm, emotionless tone. Final survey confirms previous data. Planet classification: unlivable. No breathable atmosphere for most species. High radiation. Extreme biological threats. Landing is not recommended. Alara stood with her hands behind her back, eyes fixed on the planet. She had heard these warnings her entire career. She had read the reports, the charts, the death statistics. "That's fine," she said. "I didn't come here because it was easy." The AI paused. "Once we land, there will be no council support, no rescue missions. If something goes wrong, survival probability drops below acceptable limits." Alara smiled slightly. Humans were never good at listening to acceptable limits. The ship began its descent. As the Wayfarer's Mercy entered the atmosphere, the hull shook under intense pressure. Radiation alarms flared, then stabilized as layered shielding activated. Wind slammed into the ship from all directions. The clouds outside the window burned orange and purple, boiling with energy. Any non-human vessel would have turned back. Human engineering held. When the landing legs touched the surface, the ground hissed and steamed. The soil reacted to the ship's weight like a living thing, shifting and tightening before settling. The ramp lowered. Alara stepped onto Charon 9 for the first time. Her suit filtered the air, but she could still smell metal, ozone, and something deep and earthy beneath it all. The ground felt warm under her boots. In the distance, massive shapes moved slowly through the dark forests. The sky cracked with thunder even though there were no clouds overhead. "This place is beautiful," she said quietly. The AI responded, "That is not a commonly shared opinion." Alara set to work immediately. She built a small habitat dome first, anchoring it deep into the ground with flexible supports that could adjust as the soil shifted. The materials were human-made, designed to survive pressure, radiation, and constant chemical attack. Even so, the outer layer began to discolor within hours. Next came the greenhouse. The council's files said agriculture was impossible on Charon 9. The soil consumed nutrients too quickly. Native microbes attacked foreign plant matter. Radiation damaged genetic structures. Those files were written by species that tried to control their environment. Humans adapted to it. Alara unpacked sealed containers filled with modified seeds, wheat that grew under intense radiation, root plants that could draw nutrients from hostile soil, fungal networks designed to bond with dangerous microbes instead of fighting them. She knelt and pressed the first seeds into the ground. The soil reacted immediately. Chemical sensors spiked. The earth shifted, trying to break down the foreign material. The seeds resisted. Days passed. On the third day, tiny green shoots broke through the rust-colored surface. Alara stared at them in silence, then laughed inside her helmet. "I knew it," she said. "You just needed the right approach." The AI analyzed the data repeatedly. Growth rate exceeds predicted limits. Soil hostility is decreasing in localized areas. "It's learning," Alara replied, "or adapting, same as us." She did not notice the eyes watching her at first. They stayed at the edge of sensor range, low to the ground, multiple heat signatures moving slowly, carefully, predators according to every scan. Native life forms responsible for destroying probes and drones. Alara noticed them on the fifth day. She was adjusting radiation shields around the greenhouse when she felt it. Not a sound, but a pressure, like something paying attention. She turned slowly. At the edge of the clearing, a creature stood still. It was about the size of a large dog with 6 legs and a thick armored body. Its eyes glowed faintly, adjusting constantly to light and movement. A hardened tail rested behind it, sharp and dangerous. The AI whispered, "Threat detected. This species has a confirmed kill rate of 100% against unmanned units." Alara did not move. She lowered herself slowly until she was sitting on the ground. Her movements were calm, deliberate. She made herself smaller, less threatening. "It's curious," she said, "not attacking." The creature tilted its head. Its eyes focused on the green plants growing nearby. Alara reached into her pack and pulled out a nutrient block made from processed local materials. She placed it on the ground and gently slid it forward, then pulled her hand back. The creature approached in short steps. It sniffed the block, tapped it once with a claw, then consumed it quickly. Nothing happened. No attack. No sudden movement. The creature made a low sound and sat down. From the forest, more shapes shifted. Larger ones. Older ones. Alara felt her heart beat faster, but she did not retreat. "They're watching how I behave," she said, "just like humans did with wolves." The AI remained silent, recording everything. Over the next few days, the creatures returned. They did not cross into the main work area, but they stayed close. Alara continued her routine. She planted. She tested soil. She adjusted shields. She left small food offerings made from safe compounds. The largest of the creatures appeared on the 8th day. It towered over the others, its armor scarred and darkened with age. Radiation shimmered across its body, bending light around it. It could have destroyed her habitat in seconds. Instead, it stopped at the edge of the clearing. Alara stood her ground. She removed her helmet slowly, trusting the filters built into the local atmosphere bubble around her base. The air was harsh but survivable. Her lungs burned slightly. She ignored it. She bowed her head. "I'm not here to take your world," she said softly. "I just want to live on it." The creature studied her for a long time. Then it turned and walked away. After that, the attack stopped. Other species noticed. Long-range sensors picked up something impossible. Life signs where none should exist. Crops growing on a death world. Native predators avoiding a human settlement instead of destroying it. A survey drone from a nearby alien coalition entered orbit weeks later. Its operators watched in shock as images streamed back. A human woman walked through fields of green under a violent sky. Alien creatures followed her like loyal animals, keeping watch at the edges. Radiation storms rolled over the settlement, but the plants bent instead of breaking. The ground pulsed, alive but no longer hostile. The report sent to the Galactic Council was short. Karin 9 status update. Human presence detected. Planet no longer behaving as predicted. Alara did not know about the report yet. She was too busy kneeling in the soil, smiling as stronger crops pushed upward, surrounded by creatures the galaxy had once called monsters. To her, they were just neighbors. And Karin 9 was no longer unlivable. The changes on Karin 9 did not stay hidden for long. From orbit, the planet still looked angry, still wrapped in storms and radiation, but something new appeared on the scans. Small green patches spread across the surface near Alara's landing site. Heat signatures moved in organized patterns instead of random hunting paths. Radiation levels dipped in precise circles, as if the planet itself was slowly learning to calm down. The alien survey drone that hovered in orbit transmitted everything back to its owners. The images caused confusion, then fear, then disbelief. A single human, living, farming, bonding with native predators. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. "This violates all known ecological laws," one delegate said. "Karin 9 is a death world." "It was a death world," another replied. "It may no longer be." They argued for hours. In the end, they agreed on one thing: the human needed to be observed closely. If this was some kind of anomaly, it had to be controlled. If it was a threat, it had to be stopped. They dispatched an observation ship, crewed by multiple species, equipped with defensive systems but ordered not to engage unless absolutely necessary. On the surface, Alara Vance felt none of that. Her days followed a steady rhythm. She woke before the radiation storms peaked, checked the greenhouse systems, and walked the fields. The crops had grown stronger. Their leaves were thicker, darker, able to absorb and redirect harmful energy. The soil around them had changed texture, becoming more stable, less aggressive. Life was spreading. The creatures came every morning. The first one, the smaller six-legged one she had named Ash, followed her everywhere. It learned quickly. When Alara crouched to inspect a plant, Ash stood watch. When storms rolled in, Ash pressed close to the habitat walls, its armored body absorbing stray radiation. Others joined. Some were massive, slow-moving creatures with layered shells like living mountains. Others were quick and sharp-eyed, hunters that watched the sky as much as the ground. They did not attack her crops. They did not fight each other near her home. They respected the space. The AI observed quietly. "Dr. Vance, social bonding patterns among native megafauna have shifted. Aggression levels are decreasing within a 15-kilometer radius." Alara wiped sweat from her forehead. "They're adjusting. Just like we did when we first stopped fighting nature and started working with it." The AI hesitated. "Most species do not attempt coexistence with apex predators." Alara smiled. "Most species aren't human." The first true test came during the storm surge. Karin 9 radiation storms were not gentle events. They tore across the land like invisible waves, breaking rock, mutating microbes, killing anything unprepared. Probes had been wiped out by single surges. When the warning alarm sounded, Alara was in the fields. The sky darkened instantly. Lightning streaked sideways. The air crackled with energy so intense her suit system screamed warnings. She ran. Ash stayed with her, emitting low warning sounds. Larger creatures moved in, forming a loose circle around her as they retreated toward the habitat. The storm hit before they reached shelter. Radiation slammed into the ground. The soil screamed, shifting violently. Plants bent low, leaves folding inward. Alara fell to one knee as energy washed over her. The creatures did not flee. They positioned themselves between Alara and the open field, their bodies absorbing radiation, redirecting it into the ground. Their shells glowed faintly, lines of light pulsing as if they were alive with power. Alara crawled the last few meters and reached the habitat wall. The door sealed behind her. Through reinforced glass, she watched the storm rage. The creatures stood their ground. When the storm passed, the land was changed. The ground around the settlement had hardened. Radiation levels dropped sharply. The crops stood taller than before, leaves wide and strong. The creatures shook off the last of the energy and returned calmly to their positions. The AI analyzed data in silence. Finally, it spoke. "Dr. Vance, the native life forms appear to be acting as living radiation stabilizers." Alara stared at the readings. "They're protecting the ecosystem, protecting us." "Correction," the AI said. "They are protecting you." Word spread faster after that. The observation ship arrived in orbit 3 weeks later. Its crew watched from above, stunned. The scans did not lie. A death world was changing. They sent a message. "Human Dr. Alara Vance, this is a coalition observation vessel. We request communication." Alara stood outside her habitat when the message came through her suit. She sighed. That didn't take long. She activated the channel. The hologram that appeared showed several alien faces, all different, all tense. Their eyes kept flicking to the creatures standing behind her, to the fields of green growing under a violent sky. "You are violating multiple council directives," one of them said. "Unauthorized settlement, ecological interference." Alara crossed her arms. "I'm alive. The planet is alive. No one else was using it. Karin 9 was classified unlivable for a reason," another said. "Your presence could destabilize the system." Alara looked around. The creatures, the crops, the calmer ground. "Looks pretty stable to me," she replied. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. "We will be sending a ground team to assess the situation," the lead delegate said. "Remain cooperative." Alara felt a ripple of tension move through the creatures. Ash stepped closer, tail flicking. "Be careful," Alara said calmly. "The local life doesn't like sudden movements." The ground team landed 2 days later. They wore heavy armor, radiation shields glowing. Weapons were visible, though not raised. Their fear was obvious. As they approached the settlement, the creatures emerged from the forest. The aliens froze. "These are hostile organisms," one whispered. "They killed our probes." Alara stepped forward, placing herself between the team and the creatures. "They respond to intent," she said. "Lower your weapons." The team leader hesitated, then slowly lowered his rifle. Nothing attacked. Ash approached, sniffed the air, and sat down. The aliens stared. "This is impossible," one said softly. Alara led them through the fields, showing the crops, the soil changes, the readings. She explained her methods in simple terms: adaptation, cooperation. "Respect, you didn't conquer the planet," the leader said. "You joined it." Alara nodded. "That's how humans survive." The turning point came suddenly. An underground tremor shook the land. A deep, violent pulse rose from below the surface. Sensors screamed. The AI spoke urgently. "Planetary instability detected. Massive subsurface organism awakening." The ground split in the distance. Something enormous began to rise. The creatures around Alara reacted instantly. They formed defensive lines facing the rupture. Low, powerful sounds rolled across the land, a warning, a call. The alien ground team panicked. "This is why the planet is unlivable." Alara stood firm. "No," she said. "This is why it needed us." The massive shape continued to emerge, shaking the world. And the creatures moved to meet it, not in fear, but in defense of their home, and of the human who had chosen to share it. The observers in orbit watched in silence as the impossible unfolded. Humanity had not just survived a death world, it had become part of its balance. And Karin 9 was no longer facing the future alone. The ground shook harder with every second. The massive shape rising from beneath Karin 9 was unlike anything the alien observers had imagined. It was not fast. It was not raging. It was ancient. Layers of stone-like armor slid against each other as it emerged, each movement sending deep vibrations through the land. Glowing veins of energy ran across its body, pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat older than the planet's storms. The alien ground team stepped back in fear. "That thing is a planetary-class organism," one of them said, voice shaking. "If it becomes hostile, we won't survive." Alara did not move. She felt the vibrations through her boots, through her bones. The creatures around her stood firm, their bodies aligned toward the giant being. None of them attacked. None of them fled. They waited. Ash stood at Alara's side, making a low, steady sound that resonated with the others. It was not fear. It was communication. The massive organism rose fully from the ground and stopped. Its many eyes opened, glowing softly as they scanned the land. The fields, the habitat, the creatures gathered in lines, and finally the human standing calmly at the center of it all. The alien team raised their weapons in panic. "Do not fire," Alara said firmly. "You can't be serious," the team leader replied. "That thing could wipe out this entire area." Alara took a slow step forward. Every alien froze in shock. The massive organism lowered its head slightly. The ground settled. The storms in the distance weakened, as if listening. Alara removed her helmet. The air burned her lungs for a moment, sharp and metallic, but she held steady. She raised her empty hands so they could be seen. "I'm not a threat," she said, speaking aloud even though she didn't know if the creature could hear sound the way humans did. "I live here now. I take care of this place." The massive organism tilted its head. A deep vibration rolled across the land, not destructive but thoughtful. The soil around Alara's feet shifted gently, no longer aggressive. The AI spoke quietly in her ear. "Doctor, sensor readings suggest this organism is not hostile. It may be a planetary regulator." Alara nodded slightly. "A guardian," she whispered. The smaller creatures moved forward in unison, stopping a safe distance from the giant. They lowered their bodies, a sign of respect. The massive organism responded by settling deeper into the ground, stabilizing the rupture it had created. The energy pulses across its body slowed. Radiation levels dropped sharply. The planet calmed. The alien ground team stared in disbelief. "You communicated with it," one said. Alara shook her head. "I didn't command it, I acknowledged it." The observation ship in orbit transmitted frantic messages to the Galactic Council. Live data poured in. Radiation levels stabilizing. Seismic activity decreasing. Native megafauna acting in coordination with a human. The Council was silent. Back on the surface, the giant organism slowly sank back into the Earth, leaving behind solid, stable ground where chaos had been before. The creatures relaxed, returning to their usual positions around the settlement. Ash brushed against Alara's leg. She exhaled slowly, realizing only then how tense she had been. The alien team leader removed his helmet, his eyes wide. "We classified this planet as unlivable because we couldn't control it." Alara looked at him. "That was the mistake." Over the next days, the ground team stayed. They studied everything: the crops, the creatures, the soil, the storms. Every test confirmed the same impossible truth. Human presence had not damaged Karin 9. It had balanced it. The crops absorbed excess radiation. The creatures redistributed energy naturally. The massive underground organism regulated tectonic stress. And at the center of it all was a human settlement built not to dominate but to adapt. One of the alien scientists watched Alara working in the fields. "You don't act like this world is dangerous," he said. Alara smiled slightly. "It is dangerous, so was Earth. So were most places humans came from. We didn't survive by running away." "Then how?" he asked. "By learning," she said. "By making friends where others saw enemies." The council could not ignore the evidence. They sent another message, this time less demanding, more uncertain. "Dr. Alara Vance," the council speaker said, appearing as a hologram near the settlement. "Your actions have altered a planetary ecosystem. This was not authorized." Alara wiped dirt from her hands and faced the projection. The creatures watched quietly. "Is the planet collapsing?" Alara asked. "No." "Is anyone harmed?" "No." "Then what's the problem?" she said calmly. The council speaker hesitated. "You have proven our classifications wrong." Alara nodded. "Humans do that a lot." Silence followed. Finally the speaker said, "The council requests guidance." The alien observers gasped. Alara raised an eyebrow. "Guidance?" "Yes," the speaker continued. "Other worlds exist with similar classifications. Death worlds, unlivable zones. If humans can adapt as you have, the galaxy could change." Alara looked around at Karin 9. The green fields under a violent sky, the creatures standing guard, the ground steady and alive. "We don't fix worlds by force," she said. "We listen first, then we work." The council ended the transmission. From that day forward, everything accelerated. Human ships began arriving not with weapons but with tools. Engineers, biologists, farmers, not to conquer Karin 9 but to learn from it. They followed Alara's example. They observed. They adapted, Other species watched closely. On worlds long abandoned, humans tried the same approach. Sometimes it failed. Sometimes it worked. But humans kept trying, because humans did not fear hard places. On Karin 9, Ilara expanded the settlement. New habitats rose, grown partially from living materials that bonded with the soil. The creatures accepted the newcomers slowly, cautiously. Ash remained by Ilara's side, now larger, stronger. One evening, as lightning rolled harmlessly across the sky, the AI spoke. "Dr. Vance, human survival models across extreme environments have increased by 37% since this project began." Ilara smiled. "We're just getting started." Far beneath the surface, the massive planetary organism rested peacefully, its rhythms synced with the surface life. The storms no longer raged without reason. The land responded to care. The galaxy had called Karin 9 unlivable. Humans had proven something else. Life did not need permission. It needed patience, and humanity had plenty of that. The final realization spread quietly but deeply through the stars. If humans could thrive here, on a world that hated everything else, then there was no place in the universe they could not call home. And Karin 9 was only the beginning. The galaxy did not change overnight, but it did change because of Karin 9. The reports kept coming. Data confirmed again and again that the planet was stable. Radiation storms no longer spiked without warning. Seismic activity followed clear cycles. Life thrived where nothing should have survived. At the center of every report was the same truth. Humans did not fight the world. They listened to it. Doctor. Ilara Vance became a name spoken across the stars. Some species said it with respect, others with fear, a few with disbelief. The Galactic Council, once certain of its classifications, now faced a problem it could not ignore. Their old rules were failing. On Karin 9, life moved forward quietly. The settlement grew, but it did not spread wildly. Ilara insisted on balance. Each new structure was built only after long observation. The soil was tested. The creatures were watched. The deep rhythms of the planet were respected. Humans learned to grow buildings that breathed with the land. Walls flexed during tremors. Roofs absorbed radiation and fed it back into the ground safely. Crops grew in layered fields, mixing human plants with native life that strengthened both. The creatures became guardians, not servants. They chose where to patrol. They chose where humans could walk safely. When storms approached, they gathered near the settlement, forming living barriers that redirected energy. When danger rose from the deep places of the planet, they responded first, not with anger but with control. Ash grew large and strong, its armor thick and patterned with glowing lines. It no longer followed Ilara like a curious child. It walked beside her like an equal. One day the council sent a final delegation. This time they did not come with weapons. Their ship landed at a respectful distance. When the ramp lowered, the delegates stepped out slowly, eyes wide as they took in the sight. Fields of green under a burning sky. Massive alien creatures standing calmly beside human homes. A planet that should have been chaos, now steady and alive. Ilara walked out to meet them. "You are standing on a world we declared impossible," the council speaker said. Ilara nodded. "You declared it impossible for you." The speaker studied the ground beneath his feet. "We were wrong." That admission echoed louder than any storm. The council offered Ilara power, authority, control over future settlements. They wanted humans to lead the expansion into other death worlds. Ilara refused. "Humans don't lead nature," she said. "We walk with it. If you want that future, you have to learn too." The council listened. Slowly, reluctantly, but they listened. Training programs began. Humans taught other species how to observe instead of dominate, how to test without destroying, how to build with patience. Many failed, some succeeded, all learned something, and everywhere humans went the same pattern appeared. Worlds softened. Not because humans were gentle, but because they were stubborn, because they refused to give up, because they adapted when others retreated. Karin 9 became a living classroom. Then the warning came. Far beyond the system, something was moving. A region of space where stars went dark, planets went silent, not destroyed but emptied. Life simply stopped. The council panicked. This threat does not behave like any known force, they said. It does not negotiate. It does not consume resources. It erases ecosystems. The projections were clear. Its path led toward Karin 9. Many argued to evacuate. Why risk everything for one world, they asked. Alara stood before them, calm as ever. This world isn't just soil and stone, she said. It's proof. If we abandon it, we abandon what we learned. The creatures sensed the coming danger before the machines did. Deep vibrations passed through the ground. The ancient planetary organism shifted far below the surface, waking fully. For the first time, the planet prepared. When the unknown force reached the edge of the system, the stars dimmed slightly, sensors struggled, ships lost signal clarity. The force approached Karin 9 and stopped. Energy readings spiked, then stabilized. The planet responded as one system. The deep organism adjusted tectonic flows. The creatures redirected radiation into protective patterns. The plants absorbed harmful waves and converted them into harmless light and heat. At the center of it all stood the human settlement. Alara watched the sky as it shimmered unnaturally. The AI spoke, awed. "Doctor, the planet is resisting." Not with weapons, with balance. The force pressed harder. The planet held. Something unexpected happened. The force changed course. It moved away. Across the galaxy, sensors confirmed it. The dead zone bent around Karin 9 as if avoiding it. The council stared at the data in stunned silence. A single planet altered the path of an extinction-level phenomenon, one whispered. No, Alara said. A partnership did. News spread faster than ever before. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were stabilizers. Where chaos ruled, humans brought balance. Not by force, but by understanding. They became welcome on worlds once feared, sought out where others failed. Not because they were stronger, but because they refused to quit. Years passed. Karin 9 no longer appeared angry from orbit. It still burned, still stormed, still lived fiercely. But it was steady, confident. A human child was born there, the first of many. The air was harsh but survivable, the ground warm and alive. The creatures watched over the settlement, protective and patient. Alara grew older, but she never left. One evening, she stood on a hill as the sun dipped below the horizon. Lightning traced gentle lines across the sky. Ash stood beside her, massive and calm. "They called you a monster once," Alara said softly. Ash made a low, peaceful sound. "They called this place unlivable too." She looked out across the fields, the homes, the life. "Humans don't need perfect worlds," she said. "We make our place in imperfect ones." Far across the stars, the old classification systems were quietly rewritten. Unlivable no longer meant abandoned. It meant waiting, waiting for humans. And when future generations looked back, they would say this was the moment everything changed. Not when humans conquered the galaxy, but when they proved that even the harshest worlds could become home, because humanity did not ask the universe for permission to live. They simply learned how, and they stayed. They called the planet Unlivable. She planted crops and raised monsters as pets. HFY Sci-Fi Best Story.